Okay, let's get into this. We're looking at a story today that is so deeply embedded in our culture.
Hmm?
You hear the title Notre-Dame de Paris, or, the Hunchback of Notre-Dame,
Right.
and you probably get a very specific image in your head. Maybe it's singing gargoyles, a lovable hero, something like a fairy tale.
And if that's the image you have,
Yeah.
you are in for a bit of a shock.
Mm.
Because the reality of Victor Hugo's novel is infinitely darker.
Grittier, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Ugh.
It's not a fairy tale at all. It's a Gothic tragedy about obsession, social collapse, and just the crushing weight of fate.
It's interesting you say social collapse because reading for this, I was really struck by how it's not just a character study. It almost feels like a biography of a building.
That is the perfect way to put it. That's a perfect place to start. Before we even get to Quasimodo or Esmeralda, we have to talk about why Hugo wrote this.
Okay.
He didn't just write it to tell a romance. He wrote it as a PR campaign.
A PR campaign for what?
For the cathedral itself.
Hmm.
In the 1830s, when he was writing, Paris was modernizing.
Right, tearing down all the old medieval stuff.
Exactly, left and right. Notre Dame was, crumbling. It was neglected, and people wanted to either demolish it or update it with cheap plaster.
Wow.
Hugo was furious. So he wrote this book to make the French people fall in love with their own architecture again, to prove that the building had a soul.
So the cathedral isn't just a setting, it's the client. He's basically its lawyer making a case in the court of public opinion.
That's it, exactly. And to do that, he takes us way back to January 6th, 1482, the Festival of the Epiphany.
And the Festival of Fools?
And the Festival of Fools, yes.
Let's set the scene here, because this is not the romantic Paris you see on postcards. This is loud, it's probably smelly.
Oh, definitely smelly. And just chaotic. It's a total sensory overload. And that Festival of Fools part is crucial.
Why is that?
Because it represents a world turned upside down. It was the one day a year the church basically allowed total anarchy. Commoners would mock the clergy, drink in the streets. They'd even elect a Pope of Fools.
Which is where we meet our first character. Or at least the lens through which we see everything, Pierre Gringoire.
Ah, poor Gringoire.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a wandering poet. Think of him as, that brilliant artist friend who's obsessed with high ideals, but is completely broke and sleeping on the street.
He's written this play for the festival, right?
Yeah.
But no one's watching it.
Nobody cares. They're all too busy partying.
Mm-hmm.
It's this brutal irony. He's there looking for art and beauty, but he's just surrounded by this gritty, visceral humanity.
It feels like Hugo is telling us right from the start, you can't separate art from the suffering of the streets. You can't have high culture without the low.
And right there, in that low culture, Gringoire and us, the reader, we spot the spark that lights the fuse for the entire story.
Esmeralda.
The dancer in the square.
Esmeralda.
She's the catalyst. She's described as just radiant, hypnotizing this whole crowd. But she's not just a pretty face. She's a walking contradiction to everything that 15th century Paris stands for. She represents freedom in a society that is built on these incredibly strict rules. She's a Romani woman, a total outsider, and she has this goat, Jolly.
The goat is important.
The goat is a very significant character, yes. And she performs tricks with him. To the crowd, it's just entertainment. But to the church, it looks an awful lot like witchcraft.
Let's just pause on that for a second because it sounds kind of funny, but it's actually really dangerous for her.
It's incredibly dangerous. The goat does these cute little tricks, but in 1482, that is potential evidence of the devil. So Esmeralda is walking a tightrope. She wants to belong, she wants to be accepted, but her very existence is a provocation.
And that provocation attracts attention. Dangerous attention. Which brings us to what you could call the quartet of desire. We have three men who look at her, and they all see something completely different.
And none of them really see her.
Let's start with the big one, the shadow over the whole story, Claude Frollo.
The Archdeacon. Now, pop culture often just paints him as a villainous judge.
Yeah.
But in the book, he's much more tragic. He's a man of immense intellect, a scientist, an alchemist.
He's the smartest guy in the room.
By far. But he's so emotionally stunted. He's raised his younger brother, Jahan. He's adopted Quasimodo. But he spent his entire life in a stone tower studying books, repressing every single human urge. He is a pressure cooker.
And Esmeralda is the match that lights the fuse.
There's this one scene Hugo writes so well. Frollo watches a spider trapping a fly in its web. And he has this realization. He is the fly. He's caught in the web of fate.
Wow.
He becomes obsessed with Esmeralda, not just because she's beautiful, but because she represents everything he's denied himself. Passion, chaos, life.
And it's terrifying because it's not love, it's possession. He basically decides, if I can't have her, no one can.
Exactly. He starts stalking her. He's lurking in the shadows. He completely transforms from a man of God into this predatory phantom.
So you contrast that with the second man, Captain Phoebus.
The guy on the white horse, the hero.
The hero in shining armor.
Visually, yes. He's handsome, he's a soldier, he looks the part, and Esmeralda falls for him. Hard. She thinks he's her savior.
But inside the armor?
There's nobody home. Phoebus is just empty. He is the embodiment of vanity.
He just wants a fling.
That's it. A knight. He doesn't care about her soul or her safety. He's actually engaged to a wealthy noblewoman. Esmeralda is just a diversion for him.
Which really hits on one of the book's biggest themes, appearance versus reality.
Absolutely.
You have the holy man, who's a monster inside. You have the hero, who's a hollow shell. And then you have the third man, who looks like a monster, Quasimodo.
The bell ringer.
Yeah.
And we have to be clear about how the book described him. He's deaf from the bells. He's hunchback. He is visibly, different. Society calls him grotesque.
And his relationship with Frollo is so complex. Frollo is his adoptive father. He saved him.
He did. He saved him from being killed as an infant. So Quasimodo's loyalty to Frollo is fierce. Frollo is the only person who's ever shown him anything that even resembles care.
Until the pillory scene.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That is the pivotal moment.
Break that down for us.
Quasimodo gets arrested for a minor infraction, and it's a misunderstanding, because he's deaf. He's sentenced to the pillory.
Right.
So he's strapped to a wheel in the public square and whipped. The crowd, the very same crowd that cheered him as Pope of Fools, is now throwing rocks at him. And he's begging for water.
And Frollo sees this happening, right? His own adopted son.
Frollo walks right past him, ignores him completely.
But Esmeralda doesn't.
No. The very girl he tried to kidnap earlier, on Frollo's orders, she climbs up the scaffold. She doesn't mock him. She gives him a drink of water from her flask.
That one image, that drop of water, it feels like it shifts the entire tectonic plate of the story.
It does. It creates this bond of just absolute devotion. Quasimodo realizes for the first time that beauty isn't just physical, that one act of compassion is the first time he's ever been treated like a human being.
So the board is set. You have the priest's obsession, the soldier's lust, and the outcast's devotion, and then it all just collapses.
The stabbing. This is the turning point. Esmeralda agrees to meet Phoebus for a tryst. Frollo, who is just consumed by jealousy, follows them. He hides in the room.
Okay.
And just as they're getting intimate, Frollo bursts out of the shadows and stabs Phoebus.
But he gets away. And because Esmeralda is the only one there, and because she's already seen as a witch...
She gets blamed for it, which leads to her trial, which is one of the most scathing satires in the entire book. Hugo despised the justice system of his time, and he just tears it apart here.
They don't care about the truth at all.
Not at all. They torture her.
The boot. Right.
That boot. It's this horrible device designed to crush the foot. They torture her until she confesses to anything just to make the pain stop. And then, this is the wildest part, they call her Goat as a witness.
Wait, the goat testifies?
Sort of. The prosecution makes the goat do a trick spell a name or something, and the court just gasps and says, see, the devil must be involved. It's completely absurd, but it seals her fate. She's sentenced to be hanged.
It's a complete mockery of justice. So she's being marched to the gallows. It looks like the end. And then we get the moment everybody knows.
Sanctuary. Just as she's about to be executed, right in front of Notre-Dame, Quasimodo swings down on a rope, he grabs her, swings her up into the cathedral, and shouts, "Sanctuary!"
It's such an iconic, cinematic moment.
It is. And legally, it worked. The civil authorities couldn't enter the church to arrest her. She was safe. For now.
But this is where the story gets even darker. Because the cathedral isn't just a shelter, it becomes a prison.
A trap, really. Because she's safe from the hangman outside, but she's trapped inside with two men.
Quasimodo, who she's grateful to but is also terrified of, and Frollo.
And Frollo has the keys to everything. He roams the cathedral at night. He comes to her cell, pleading, then threatening. He gives her an ultimatum. Choose me or the gallows.
It's just unbelievably disturbing. And meanwhile, outside the walls, the city is boiling over.
Which leads to the Siege of Notre-Dame, a massive action sequence that gets cut from almost every adaptation.
It's such a tragic misunderstanding.
The worst irony. Rumors spread that the authorities are going to break Sanctuary. So the Court of Miracles, the city's outcasts, the thieves, the beggars,
Her people,
they decide to storm the cathedral to save her.
they're coming to rescue her.
Yes. But Quasimodo up in the towers, he's deaf. He can't hear their shouts. He just sees a mob attacking his home, attacking the sanctuary. He thinks they're coming to kill Esmeralda.
Oh, no.
So he fights them. Single-handedly, he throws huge stones. He pours molten lead from the gutters, using the architecture of the building itself as a weapon.
He slaughters the very people who are trying to save the woman he loves.
It's heartbreaking. It's the fog of war, and in all that chaos, while Quasimodo is distracted,
Frollo makes this move.
he smuggles Esmeralda out the back. He thinks, okay, now she's outside. She has no choice. She has to be with me.
And when she still refuses him.
He hands her over. He just drags her to the executioner and gives her up. He chooses her death over her freedom.
So let's talk about that climax. It's not really a battle, it's a witnessing.
It is. Quasimodo gets back to her cell and she's gone. He panics, runs to the top of the tower. And from the gallery, he sees two things. Far below, in the square, he sees a little white dress hanging from the gibbet.
Esmeralda is dead.
And the second thing,
Frollo.
he sees Frollo standing right next to him on the balcony, watching the execution. And Frollo laughs. It's described as this demonic, unhinged laugh.
And that just snaps the final chord.
The loyalty breaks completely. Quasimodo looks at the dead woman he loved, then at the man he worshipped his whole life, and he pushes Frollo.
He doesn't just push him. The book says he watches him fall.
It's a gruesome fall. He bounces off the gargoyles, catching on the architecture he claimed to own, before finally smashing onto the pavement.
It was the span of a minute. Quasimodo has lost everything. The villain is dead, the woman he loves is dead, and he's just alone.
He says, "All that I've ever loved." That's his line.
You know, most stories would end there. The villain is dead. But Hugo gives us this epilogue that is just haunting.
This is the imagery that sticks with you, for sure. The book jumps forward years. It describes them finding a charnel house, a mass grave where the bodies of the executed were thrown.
And they find something unusual.
They find two skeletons. One is clearly a woman's, and wrapped around her in a tight embrace is another skeleton with a crooked spine.
Quasimodo, he found her body.
He went there, laid down beside her, and just died holding her. But here's the final detail, the kicker. When the people try to detach the two skeletons, to separate them, the bones crumble into dust.
Wow.
The implication is that in a society this broken, where appearance rules over everything, the only true union, the only place these two outcasts could ever truly belong together, was in death.
That's heavy. But it brings us all the way back to Hugo's mission. He wrote this to save the cathedral. Did it work?
Ironically, yes. The book was a massive bestseller. People read it and suddenly realized, my God, this building has a soul. It's witnessed all this. It sparked a huge restoration movement. In fact, the famous spire that burned down recently, that was added after the book came out, as part of the restoration Hugo inspired.
So the building is still standing because this story was told.
Precisely.
It leaves us with a lot to think about. We started this deep dive thinking about a cartoon, and we ended up with skeletons turning to dust. But I think the core question Hugo is asking is as relevant now as it ever was.
It's the question of who the real monster is.
Right. We have Frollo, the pillar of society, who is the true monster. We have Phoebus, the handsome hero, who is completely empty. And we have Quasimodo, the rejected outcast, who has the purest soul.
Hugo is forcing us to ask, in our modern version of the 15th century, which can feel just as tumultuous, let's be honest, who are the people we're condemning based on the shape of their spine or their background or where they come from?
And who are the Frollos we're entrusting with power just because they wear the right robes or say the right things?
It's a mirror.
Yeah.
And looking into it isn't always comfortable.
Definitely not. But that's why we do this.
Yeah.
To look past the gargoyles and see the messy, tragic, beautiful humanity inside. Thanks for diving deep with us today on Notre-Dame de Paris.
Stay curious.